Alien General Zorgax's arrival on Earth. General Zorgax of the Galactic Imperium stood on the bridge of his massive warship, the Conquest, as it entered Earth's orbit. He gazed at the blue-green planet below with a mix of curiosity and disdain. Earth was a backwater world, primitive compared to the thousands of planets under Imperium control. Its inhabitants, the humans, were barely a Type I civilization, still relying on fossil fuels and chemical rockets. Zorgax had studied Earth's history and military capabilities. He was amused by their so-called advanced weapons, projectile firearms, explosive shells, even crude nuclear devices. To the Imperium, with its directed energy weapons, force fields, and faster-than-light drives, human weapons were mere children's toys. Open a channel to the United Earth government, Zorgax commanded his communications officer. Moments later, a holoscreen shimmered to life, showing the startled face of Earth's Prime Minister. "People of Earth," Zorgax began, his voice stern and imperious. "I am General Zorgax of the Galactic Imperium. Your planet now falls under our jurisdiction. You will surrender unconditionally and submit to Imperium rule. Resistance is futile. Your primitive weapons are no match for our superior technology. You have one Earth rotation to comply or face the consequences." With that, Zorgax terminated the communication, confident that the humans would quickly capitulate in the face of the Imperium's overwhelming might. He allowed himself a small smile, imagining the wealth and glory that would come from conquering this new world for the Imperium. Little did Zorgax know that he had gravely underestimated the ingenuity, determination, and sheer lethality of the human race. Earth was not just another primitive planet to be easily subjugated. It was a death world, forged in the fires of conflict and competition, home to a species that had turned the art of war into a science. The humans would not surrender meekly. They would fight, and in doing so, they would teach the arrogant alien general a lesson he would never humans prepare a defiant demonstration. In the United Earth government's Situation Room, Prime Minister Olivia Reeves ended the communication with General Zorgax, her face grim but determined. Around the table, the leaders of Earth's military forces looked to her for guidance. "We will not surrender," Reeves declared, her voice steady. "We have faced threats before, and we have always prevailed. This Galactic Imperium may have advanced technology, but they don't know what humans are capable of. It's time we show them." General Marcus Graves, the Supreme Commander of Earth's armed forces, nodded in agreement. "We have been preparing for a scenario like this for decades," he said. "Our weapons may seem primitive to the aliens, but they are highly effective, and we have some surprises in store." Graves brought up a holoscreen showing a map of the Nevada desert. "We will invite General Zorgax to a demonstration of our military capabilities," he explained. "We'll start with our conventional weapons, firearms, tanks, aircraft. Then we'll escalate to our more advanced systems, railguns, particle beams, plasma warheads, and if necessary, we'll reveal our trump cards." "The orbital defense platforms," Reeves murmured, referring to the network of heavily armed satellites that secretly orbited Earth, "and the singularity bombs." Graves nodded gravely. "Let's hope it doesn't come to that. But if it does, we'll be ready." As the meeting adjourned and the military leaders set to work preparing for the demonstration, Reeves couldn't shake a sense of unease. She knew that provoking the Galactic Imperium was a dangerous gamble, but what choice did they have? Earth would not go quietly into the night. They would show these aliens the true meaning of human resilience and courage, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. And if the worst came to pass, if the Imperium unleashed the full might of their star-spanning empire against Earth, well, the humans had one final option, a weapon of last resort that could reduce an entire galaxy to ashes. Reeves prayed it would not come to that. But she knew, with grim certainty, that humans would never abandon their most fundamental imperative: survival at any cost. The weapons demonstration begins. General Zorgax stood on a raised platform in the middle of the Nevada desert, flanked by his senior officers and a squad of elite Imperium guards. The harsh sunlight glinted off their polished armor, and the dry wind whipped at the banners displaying the Imperium's crest. Before them stretched a vast expanse of barren land, dotted with crude human structures, hangars, bunkers, and what appeared to be primitive vehicles and artillery pieces. Zorgax suppressed a sneer. Did the humans really think they could impress him with their antiquated weapons? A delegation of human leaders approached the platform, led by General Marcus Graves. Zorgax noted with some approval that Graves carried himself with a warrior's bearing, his uniform crisp and his eyes hard. "General Zorgax," Graves said, inclining his head in a minimal show of respect. "Welcome to Earth. I trust you'll find our demonstration enlightening." Zorgax waved a hand dismissively. "Proceed, human. Let us see what toys your species has crafted." Graves signaled to his subordinates, and the demonstration began. First, a squadron of tanks rolled out, their engines roaring. The tanks fired their main cannons in unison, the thunderous booms echoing across the desert. Explosions blossomed in the distance, and Zorgax noted with grudging respect the accuracy and power of the shots. Next came a flight of fighter jets, screaming overhead in tight formation. They dropped bombs and fired missiles, the ordnance detonating with impressive force. Zorgax's officers murmured among themselves, reassessing their initial disdain for human capabilities. As the demonstration progressed, the human weapons grew more sophisticated. Artillery shells rained down with pinpoint precision, guided by satellite targeting. Laser-guided bombs struck mock bunkers, reducing them to rubble. Electromagnetic railguns hurled projectiles at hypersonic speeds, the impacts leaving craters in the desert floor. Zorgax felt a growing sense of unease. The humans were more capable than he had anticipated. Their weapons, while primitive compared to Imperium technology, were clearly effective and well-crafted. He began to wonder if he had underestimated this Deathworld and its inhabitants. But the true shock was yet to come. As the sun began to set over the desert, casting long shadows across the dunes, General Graves turned to Zorgax with a grim smile. "And now, General, let us show you the full extent of human ingenuity and determination." He nodded to his officers, and Zorgax saw a massive shape rising from a hidden underground silo. It was a missile, but larger than any he had ever seen. Its surface was a matte black, absorbing the fading light, and strange runes were etched along its length. Zorgax's eyes widened as he realized what he was seeing. It was a singularity bomb, a weapon that could create an artificial black hole, capable of consuming an entire planet. The humans had cracked the secrets of gravity manipulation, a technology the Imperium had long sought, but never mastered. As the missile rose to its full height, towering over the desert like a monolith of destruction, Zorgax felt a chill run down his spine. He had come to Earth expecting to conquer a primitive species, but now he faced a civilization that had weaponized the very fabric of the universe. The demonstration was not yet over. But Zorgax knew, with a sinking certainty, that the Galactic Imperium had made a grave miscalculation. The humans were not just another race to be subjugated. They were a force to be reckoned with, a species that had looked into the abyss of annihilation and had not flinched. Terrifying advanced weapons are revealed. General Zorgax couldn't quite suppress the shudder that ran through his body as the singularity bomb slowly sank back into its silo, the desert sand swirling in the wake of its passage. He had never imagined that a species as primitive as humanity could wield such destructive power. But the demonstration was far from over. General Graves stepped forward, his expression grim. "That, General Zorgax, was just a taste of what we're capable of. We have more to show you." He nodded, and a new series of weapons were unveiled. First came a swarm of drones, each no larger than a human hand. They buzzed through the air, moving with eerie coordination. Suddenly, they coalesced into a shimmering cloud around a mock target, a decommissioned tank. In seconds, the tank was reduced to a heap of rust, the drones breaking it down on a molecular level. Weaponized nanotechnology. Graves explained, as Zorgax's officers muttered in disbelief. Self-replicating, self-organizing, and highly adaptable. Imagine what they could do to a living target. Next, a squad of soldiers stepped forward, clad in strange, fluid armor that rippled with iridescent colors. One of them raised a hand, and a beam of blinding white light erupted from his palm, slicing through a concrete bunker like a hot knife through butter. Psi-amplification suit, Graves said. It enhances the wearer's natural psychic abilities, turning thought into a weapon. The Imperium isn't the only ones with an interest in psionic warfare. Zorgax's mind reeled. Humanity had not just mastered advanced technology. They had harnessed the power of the mind itself. He thought of the Imperium's own experiments with psychic soldiers, the disastrous results, the madness and destruction that had ensued. How had the humans managed to control such power? But the final revelation was the most terrifying of all. A scientist stepped forward, holding a small, innocuous-looking device. It was a simple metal sphere, no larger than a human fist, with a single blinking light on its surface. This, the scientist said, her voice soft but filled with a quiet intensity, is an antimatter bomb. It contains a microscopic amount of antimatter, suspended in a magnetic field. When the field is collapsed, the antimatter will contact regular matter. And she trailed off, letting the implication hang in the air. Zorgax knew what would happen. Antimatter was the mirror image of normal matter, and when the two met, they annihilated each other in a flash of pure energy. A single gram of antimatter, when unleashed, had the destructive power of 100 nuclear bombs. The scientist held up the device. This is just a prototype. We have larger versions, capable of destroying entire star systems. We call it the Doomsday Device. Zorgax felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. The humans had not just created weapons. They had fashioned instruments of apocalypse, devices that could unmake the very fabric of the universe. And they had done it all in secret, hiding their true capabilities from the rest of the galaxy. As the demonstration concluded and the human delegation walked away, leaving Zorgax and his officers standing in stunned silence, the alien general knew that everything had changed. The Imperium had come to Earth expecting to find a primitive, easily conquered species. Instead, they had discovered a race that had looked into the darkness between the stars and had not blinked, a civilization that had made a covenant with the forces of annihilation. Earth was not just a death world. It was a nightmare given form, a planet that had transformed itself into a weapon. And as Zorgax contemplated the implications, he felt a cold, creeping dread settle over him, a realization that the universe would never be the same again. Zorgax reevaluates his plans. In the dimly lit conference room of the Conquest, General Zorgax sat at the head of the table, his usually proud posture slumped, his face lined with worry. Around him, his senior officers and advisors were engaged in heated debate, their voices rising and falling like the tides of a restless sea. "We must retreat," one officer insisted, his eyes wide with fear. "The humans are too dangerous, their weapons too advanced. We cannot hope to conquer them." "Retreat," another scoffed. "And let the rest of the galaxy see the Imperium fleeing from a primitive species. Our reputation would be ruined." "Our reputation will mean little if we're all dead," a third countered. "You saw what they can do. Singularity bombs, antimatter weapons, psionics. We are outmatched." Zorgax listened to the arguments, his mind churning. He had come to Earth expecting an easy victory, a quick subjugation of a lesser species. But the humans had surprised him at every turn, revealing depths of ingenuity and destructive power he had never imagined. He thought back to the briefings he had received on Earth, the intelligence reports that had dismissed humans as a backward, fractious species, too busy fighting among themselves to pose a threat to the Imperium. How wrong those reports had been. The humans had presented a united front, a species that had set aside their differences in the face of an external threat. And what a threat they posed. The weapons they had demonstrated were not just advanced, they were terrifying. capable of unmaking entire worlds, of turning the very laws of physics into instruments of destruction. The Imperium had long prided itself on its technological superiority, but the humans had shown that they were not just equals, but potentially superiors. Zorgax's advisors were right. To continue with the invasion would be folly. The humans would fight with a ferocity and desperation born of the knowledge that they were defending their very existence, and with the weapons at their disposal, the cost of victory would be too high, even for the vast resources of the Imperium. But to retreat, Zorgax's pride rebelled at the thought. He had never backed down from a fight, never admitted defeat. To do so now would be a stain on his honor, a blow to his reputation that he might never recover from. And yet, as he looked around the table at the faces of his officers, he saw the same realization dawning in their eyes. The Imperium had made a grave miscalculation. They had underestimated the humans, had failed to recognize the depth of their resolve and the height of their ambition. To press forward now would be to court disaster, to risk the very future of the Imperium itself. Zorgax took a deep breath, then let it out slowly. "We will withdraw," he said, his voice heavy with finality. "The humans have proven themselves too dangerous to engage directly. We must find another way." There was a moment of stunned silence, then a chorus of agreement. The decision was made. The Imperium would retreat from Earth, would seek to contain and isolate the human threat through diplomatic means, through a campaign of sabotage and disinformation. But they would not risk open war, not against a species that had turned itself into a weapon. As the meeting broke up and his officers filed out of the room, Zorgax remained seated, his thoughts dark and troubled. He had come to Earth seeking glory, but had found only the bitter taste of humility. The humans had taught him a valuable lesson, that even the most advanced civilization could be brought low by the determination and ingenuity of a seemingly lesser species. Earth was not just a death world. It was a mirror reflecting back the arrogance and complacency of the Imperium. And as Zorgax contemplated the long road ahead, the difficult task of convincing his superiors of the need for caution, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning, that the humans were a force that would shape the destiny of the galaxy for generations to come. A new tone of respect and caution. General Zorgax stood once again before the leaders of Earth, but this time his demeanor was markedly different. Gone was the arrogance, the dismissive sneer, the casual contempt for human capabilities. In its place was a wary respect, a cautious acknowledgement of the power and potential of this unassuming species. "People of Earth," Zorgax began, his voice carefully measured, "I come before you today not as a conqueror, but as an emissary. The Galactic Imperium has reconsidered its position regarding your world and your species." He paused, as if the words were difficult to say. "We have seen the strength of your resolve, the depth of your ingenuity. You have shown us weapons and technologies we thought impossible for a civilization of your stage of development. You have demonstrated a mastery of the very fabric of the universe itself." Zorgax's gaze swept over the assembled leaders, lingering on Prime Minister Reeves and General Graves. "The Imperium has no wish for war with Earth. We recognize now that such a conflict would be costly for all involved. Instead, we propose a treaty, an agreement of mutual respect and non-interference." Reeves stepped forward, her expression guarded. "And what would the terms of this treaty be, General Zorgax?" Zorgax spread his hands. "The Imperium will withdraw its forces from Earth's orbit and territories. We will recognize Earth as a sovereign entity, with the right to self-governance and